Roll.
How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Small Guys Podcast. Today, we're going to be talking about some up and coming new movie news. And we're also going to be talking about the new season of Rings of Power. Included in that episode of Rings of Power is going to be myself, Brian Pavish, Nick Sirianni, and Charlie Baker. So right now, we're just going to get into some movie news before we do the Rings of Power intro. So I'll let Josh take it away.
Yeah, me, Andrew, and Mike are really heartbroken that we had to miss Rings of Power. We just haven't caught up on it yet. So
I did. Yeah, one thing though that I wanna say, I did just finally watch all three of the Lords of the Rings movies.
What are your thoughts?
And I
Extended
watched
cuts.
extended
You watched
cuts
the
too. Yeah,
extended cuts.
took
Mhm.
me a while. Had to break them up. I really liked it. I can definitely see the hype around this series after watching them through. I don't know how I went like my whole life without seeing them. It definitely, like, I know it gets compared a lot to, like, you know, it's one of those top dogs, like the Star Wars franchise, the Harry Potter franchise, Lord of the Rings. I still think it's in third out of those three. Personally, that's me. But I can see definitely this is one of the best, if not the best, for a trilogy. I can see the hype around that for sure.
Wow.
It's definitely worth the watch, Josh. So you gotta check it out. Mike, have you seen
But
them?
I've watched them when I was younger. Like I think I've watched probably bits and pieces of them. I don't remember anything from them.
Gotcha. They're all on HBO.
But since you just finished all three of them, especially watching the extended cuts, can't you see what each movie after Lord of the Rings has become? Like, can't you see that every new movie we've seen has like ties to Lord of the Rings?
Yeah, like how they've
Crazy
had like an
battles, all
influence.
that,
Yeah. No,
like,
I mean,
just how
those movies are what, 2001, 2, and 3, or 2, 3, 4, something like that.
earlier than that.
Are you sure? Oh wait, yeah. I'm thinking
Yeah,
of
Yeah, the first one's in the 90s.
I'm thinking
Yeah.
of the extended cuts. That's
I
why.
think I remember 99 for some reason for the first one.
Yeah, I think that's right.
But
It's crazy how old they are.
one thing I'll just say about those two is you guys are gonna, obviously we won't be on that episode, or that part of the episode. The CGI in these movies is pretty damn good considering the time frame. I mean, it's kind of, we talk a lot about CGI on this show because that's, I
Yeah.
mean, every movie nowadays, and
Yeah.
fuck, this is pretty solid considering when this came out. Like, I
Mhm.
mean, yeah, it's a little bit cheesy, but also it's fucking 2022 now, so
Yeah.
it's gonna age, but still damn good.
Oh
Yeah.
I'm glad you enjoyed it. I've been I started the Fellowship of the Ring extended cut like a couple nights ago, and I was like, you know what, maybe I'm gonna rewatch them all. It's gonna take me fucking who knows how long. It's gonna take me weeks.
Month.
I
Yeah.
think it took
literally.
me 2 weeks
Yeah.
to watch through them. The first one I cranked through
Mhm.
in like, I'd say 2 days. Like I watched as much as I could, and then I fell asleep and I finished it the next day. Second one took a little longer. The third took me the longest out of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, let's
But
get
I
into
mean-
movie news.
But I mean, real quick, it ties in with movie news. But you know how we always talk about CGI. Did you guys hear about Terrifier 2 and how it's making people leave the theater and like puke and get nauseous and shit like that?
Really?
Oh, damn,
Yeah,
really?
and I guess there's no CGI, like it's all prosthetics. So it's all like, I
It's
guess,
real.
props and shit. Like, yeah, it's all realistic as shit.
Damn.
So
Damn.
like I don't know. I guess it's like one of the goriest movies ever made. So
Shit.
I think it's like an hour and 25 minutes too. So
So don't get popcorn with that.
yeah, I guess not. I mean, some people are like, "Oh, it wasn't that bad," and they're like, "If you don't like gory movies, then don't watch it." But I mean, I don't know. I mean, if
So
it's
is it like
enough-
horror or is it like action?
Yeah, it's horror. It's if you look at the
Okay.
picture of it, it's like a clown. It's like a white face, like white and black clown.
Oh shit. Okay.
Damn.
And, you would, if you saw the picture, you'd be like, "Oh, I've probably seen that before." I'm 100% not watching that bullshit. But if you want to torture me, you could tie me down to a fucking chair and turn Terrifier 2 on. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, if someone likes scary movies, go ahead, feel free to watch it.
I'm good with
Yeah.
scary movies until
Love to
next
take my time,
October.
so-
I'm good on that. But
Yep.
with that, into the movie news.
Yeah.
All right. A Vision series titled Vision Quest is reportedly in development at Marvel Studios. It will follow Vision trying to regain his memories and humanity. Elizabeth Olsen may also reprise her role as Wanda Maximoff.
Yep.
So
You
I
guys
don't know. Would
hear
you guys watch
about,
that or what?
Hell yeah.
Yeah, I think that'd be
What was
good.
that one guy's name? Wonder Man. They just announced.
Yep.
He's got that good ass actor.
Yeah.
I don't know his name.
And
off
that's
the
a
top
show
of my
too,
head.
right, Aiden?
Yep. So I guess that's like he's more West Coast Avengers, if anyone knows about that. He's like he's like a stuntman. Like he just wants to be in like Hollywood, do all that, and then he's like Zemo gives him powers. This is all comic wise, and it's not gonna be like how it is in the show. Zemo gives him powers and he's like cosmic energy, like some bullshit like that. And
Reminds me of Stargirl. I don't know why.
yeah, and that one like Thor's daughter, or Infinity, you remember that or whatever that thing was at the end of Thor Love and
Eternity?
Thunder? Yeah, Eternity.
Yeah.
But I guess they're trying to bring in the West Coast Avengers, which all takes place in like California and shit like that. But they also said that Vision Quest in the comics was it's not, you know, like how it is in the story that we're seeing in Marvel. It's like everything that we saw in WandaVision, where, you know, like he just takes off and he flies away into like do some secret missions, and then Hawkeye's wife is like somehow behind it all, or like she's helping the Russians. Like they're trying to duplicate Vision, and then they end up tearing him apart, and then Hank Pym takes his mind and Wonder Man's mind and like creates White Vision. And then he goes in and they're like trying to, Vision Quest is like, I don't know, they're like trying to get his AI so they can build Ultron. Like that's basically what it is. And it's kind of like completely fucked to what we're seeing in the MCU, but like that's the real story.
That's the
So
thing
I'm
though, man.
curious to see how they make like an actual show about it.
You can get away with all those sweet ass things, like have Hawkeye's wife behind it and have Hank Pym in it, because it's the fucking comic. You can write it.
Yeah, I know. It's hard to do it in
movie, TV shows. There's so much that goes into it in building a universe, and they've done a great job of doing that. But they're at that point now where I think, like, I don't know. So they're not doing too much. Like, it's just like they got to be selective of what they're gonna do. I think going forward, and I think they're putting out some bullshit, honestly, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Well, no, and to keep the Marvel news going, Doctor Doom will reportedly not be the main villain in Fantastic Four, which kind of a shock to me. But I mean, maybe they're saving him for Secret Wars.
Silver Surfer, maybe?
No, Doctor Doom.
Yeah,
won't
It
be
would
the
be
main
sweet if it
villain.
was Silver Surfer, but I mean, you really can't have Silver Surfer without Doctor Doom, right?
I mean, that's
I mean,
more
you
of like a
can't have-
Galactus thing, right?
Yeah, I was gonna say you can't have Silver Surfer without Galactus.
I heard though they might do Silver Surfer as like a presentation, like kind of how they did with Werewolf by Night, like make it an hour long or hour 20
That'd be
minutes.
so shitty, dude.
You know what? It's funny you say that. I think I started the animated series. It's only one season out on Disney Plus, but for Silver Surfer, and it wasn't that bad. There was like Galactus, Black Panther,
It's probably
and like
sick.
a couple other characters that were in it. I don't know why Black Panther's tied to Silver Surfer.
Is it like new or is it like older?
Oh, I think it's older.
Okay. Kelly Marcel will direct Venom 3. She previously wrote the first two films in the franchise and is co-writing Venom 3 with Tom Hardy.
Maybe she
I don't know how I
should
feel about
retire.
that.
She should probably retire.
Yeah, if she wrote the
She
first
should probably
two.
not be allowed to make any more films.
It's cool that they're letting Tom Hardy write it though, with her. But
I guess.
I don't know.
Has
Who
he
Yeah.
ever written a movie before?
probably
He's
not.
a good
So
actor. He might not be a good writer.
he's a cool guy and a good actor.
Listen, man, after all the roles that he has and all the movies that he's been in that have been good, I have a little faith in Tom Hardy.
Yeah.
But when it comes to Sony, if you're listening to this right now, somebody that is affiliated with Sony, please listen to the words that are about to come out of my mouth. Quit fucking making movies and give all of your rights to every single thing you have related to Marvel back to fucking Disney and let them do their thing.
I agree.
I said my piece.
Then they'd have nothing if they give him away. So
Exactly.
Yeah,
They
Losing
can just sell
money.
more PS5s or something.
Make
We're
another
fine.
fucking, make
literally.
another social
They need to
network.
make more.
yeah, they need to just stop making movies and just focus on fucking video
Make
games.
a movie about Elon
Focus
Musk.
on the
Shitty TV.
focus on the hardware. You know, they
Yeah.
make good systems, good
Make
TVs,
good, dishwashers
cameras.
washer and dryers.
Get out of the
Not
movie
even-
business.
Not even anymore. Not even anymore.
Because that shit
Yeah.
probably broke.
Yeah, literally.
Like, fuck this. I can't even do damn laundry.
Avatar: The Way of Water, which we are going to review. The runtime is around 3 hours and 10 minutes.
I'm not surprised.
Yeah,
that
that's
long
seems
as
long.
I
fuck.
can't wait to
It
not
could
go
be a
see
waste of
that.
3 hours of my life. I can almost guarantee that.
Dude,
You're not
there's no
excited
way
for
I'm
that
gonna
one,
sit in
Mike?
that movie and I could give two shits about it for 3 hours.
I'm not excited for that movie. I'll say that right now.
Nah.
Like, I'm not looking.
I didn't even
forward
watch
to
the trailer.
Me neither.
We talked about this. I can't tell you a single fucking thing from the first Avatar other than that I was visually appealing.
They were blue.
They were blue.
Yeah, and they were having hair sex.
They were having hair sex. I remember thinking
I don't
that looks
remember
weird.
I don't even remember.
Yeah, they're like ponytails.
That's
connect
why,
or
dude. I was
something.
at work and some guys like, dude, I can't wait for Avatar. It's gonna be so sick. And I'm like, no way.
Ponytails
know, I would've
sucks.
said- I would have been like, hell yeah, man. I would turn around and said, what the fuck is that, guys?
Yeah.
But
Liam-
I mean, I don't know. I'm curious to think why people like it. Like, yeah, if it was fun, but like it was a good first watch, I guess you could say. But there's no reason to like.
That's as far as it
They
goes,
just
though.
put
It's
so
a,
much hype into it.
it's a good first watch. It was amazing when it came out, like the groundbreaking technology that was behind it.
Yeah.
But that, I mean, you know what? Actually, now that I just say that, I feel like maybe it's trying to be like our generation's Star Wars.
Yeah, but
Uh,
it's different if it came out
That's
10
a
years
fair
ago.
Yeah, but you know how like Star Wars was like this like massive like thing for the earlier generations and the technology that it used. I feel like Avatar is trying to be that, and it's just not getting that hype.
Yeah, but
aside
see,
from
Star
like,
Wars had so much lore.
It
and
did.
No one knows
No,
what
it
the hell is
did.
going on with Avatar. It just looks
They're
like remember when Once Upon a Time, or not Once Upon a Time, Everything Everywhere All at Once came out and Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness came out.
yeah,
It's literally how Black Panther and Avatar are gonna be. How they're both in underwater kingdoms and bullshit like that. Like, I don't know. It's just gonna be another shitty movie. So I'm not excited.
I don't
for
know
it.
if it'll be shitty, but
It's gonna be shitty.
I mean, I'm sure it'll be entertaining and
I think it'll be entertaining. I guess we'll
I'm
see.
definitely gonna get up and piss.
But then you got to think that we have four
There's
more.
no
We
way I
have
make
four
it that
coming
long.
in 4 years.
I'll say this before we review it, like live while it's recorded here. I'm going into this with low expectations.
Oh,
and
So-
it's
you'll
probably-
have to.
and it's gonna be better because of that,
Yeah,
which is the sad part compared to things that I actually like.
yeah,
I have
pretty,
expectations that it fucking ruins it.
pretty
We'll
much.
probably have to do a rewind on Avatar soon. If you guys want to do the first one, we'll see.
Maybe.
So that way I can know some of the characters' names. Liam Hemsworth will officially replace Henry Cavill in The Witcher season 4. I saw on Twitter a lot of people saying that they're gonna stop watching the show.
Yeah, I was
replacing like the
actually-
character, like he's gonna be the same character. It's just gonna be Liam Hemsworth instead. It's not.
Which
They're not
if you're-
killing him off, and
if you're on the fourth, I've never watched the show, so I don't want to say too much. But if you're on the fourth season of a show and you're about to recast, I feel like
That's
that's
crazy.
hard to
End it.
do.
yeah,
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 You
and clearly with him being Superman, he doesn't have time. And there's reports saying that he'll be in House of the Dragon season 2, which now seems more like the case if he's stepping away from The Witcher, because doing both of those is a lot of stuff on your plate. You probably can't do The Witcher included with that.
I feel like that's the good thing about like Game of Thrones and House of the Dragon is that they don't use actors that are already like established,
that's a good point.
like they don't have any huge names. Like even
Yeah.
House of the Dragon, this new season came out, like they didn't have any big names, and now once they're in it,
I was
they
gonna say
become
once
so
they're
big.
in that universe, they become a
but
big
it's
name.
just like how everyone was in Game of Thrones. Emilia Clarke does everything. She's in Star Wars. She's gonna be in Marvel now. Like she's got so much shit going on.
Peter
Jon
Dinklage.
Snow, yeah, Peter Dinklage. But I mean, he was always kind of a big actor.
Yeah,
Like
A
he was
big
in some
actor.
Jason
comedies and
Momoa
shit.
was in it too.
Peter Dinklage is
you're-
like a
you're-
big
you're a
actor.
jerk,
Come on.
It's not funny, Aiden.
He called it out, fucker. Then Jon Snow's in MCU now.
So is Rob
Who
Stark.
else?
It's
Yeah,
like
I mean,
it's like
everyone.
Star Wars. Everybody's gonna recall back like, oh, they were in Star Wars, and it's the same thing for Marvel. It's the same thing for Game of Thrones and their universe.
Yeah, no.
But I will say, though-
I'd be surprised if they brought him into House of the Dragon, because he would definitely steal the camera. Like the
But,
people are
like-
gonna want him to.
That seems like right up his alley. Honestly, I know he's like a big nerd, and I mean, I don't mean that in like a demeaning way, but like he even
He's
admits
a
it. Like,
fucking nerd.
he like he has a PC, like he always games and stuff like that. So maybe he should be on Small Guys. Maybe we can get a surprise cameo.
Could probably get him on.
I'll send him an email right now. Actually,
Yeah.
Thanks,
like-
Mike.
Yeah, we don't ever really mention video games on this podcast, but I thought this was kind of neat, maybe, depending on what you think. I'm kind of worried about it, but EA and Marvel will develop at least 3 new games together. The first one will be an Iron Man game.
You say EA or yay?
EA.
EA.
All right. I just want to make sure
EA is
EA's
canceled.
No, I just want to
But
make sure
EA
EA's,
should probably get canceled too.
EA eternally ass. That's what EA
Yeah.
stands for because they make shit games.
extra ass.
I don't know. I mean, I'm not gonna bash anything until it comes out, but I have zero hopes for any of it. So
And it's just-
that's how I live my life. You have
Ass.
the lowest expectation for anything, and you'll always be rewarded. So
I'm not buying it. So
Yeah, but like the new Spider-Man games coming,
Still
the
got money.
Wolverine, like, but those are exclusive
Okay.
to PlayStation. So
actually, I do want to play that new fucking Wolverine because that's
But see, that's not
gonna be a
EA,
good
Mike,
ass
though.
game. That's
I know,
Insomniac.
yeah, that's Insomniac. They actually know how to make games. Yeah, so I don't know. So I'm worried about that.
Let
uh,
Activision do it. They know what they're doing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
for real.
There's been a major delay on the new Star Wars movie. The delay for the new Star Wars movie is reportedly due to the fear and indecisions of certain plot roles and stuff like that at Lucasfilms.
Good.
So that whole new trilogy they're working on seems to have kind of a big delay going on.
Good. Take their time.
Mm-hmm.
Put out something that's not absolute fucking dog shit.
Learn
And that's what
from
they said. They want to make
other
sure it's perfect
brands.
before releasing it.
Learn from
Is
mistakes.
this last new trilogy was really, really bad in my opinion. Visually it was beautiful. Like there's no denying that these new Star Wars movies, if you rewatch these, if you just set the story aside, the fact that it's Star Wars, the writing, and just look at it and listen to it, it's really, really pretty. But
So basically, be a stone man and just turn your brain off and look.
pretty much.
Yeah.
Other than that, so yeah, no, that's a good thing. I hope they take their time and they can put something out that's pretty good.
Yeah. A24 is developing a Friday the 13th prequel series called Crystal Lake. That I am excited for.
A24
cool.
has
That's gonna
been
be
on
sweet.
a roll lately with everything
Nice.
they've been putting out. So I think that'll
Well,
be
you know
good.
that'll be that like 1970s feel, like camp
Yeah.
kind of shit. Like
They
that's gonna be
do-
really cool.
They've been, I mean, I feel like they do. A24 from what's come out recently does a really good job of setting a scene and setting like a theme for the movie, like with colors and just in general, like you can pick up when the movie's at when you watch one of their movies. It's really good. So
I'm a big A24 guy, honestly.
yeah. I have become one.
Yeah. HBO's The Last of Us premieres January 15th. Season 1 will be 9 episodes, and there's a new poster on it. I'm really
excited
excited
for
for
that
this.
shit.
Yeah, I'm
Did you
really. I
see
mean, the games are so
they,
fun.
And the cosmetic, like the artist that does all the prosthetic work for the villains, he's like, he did Vecna, he did
Oh yeah, you sent that
shit,
to
what
us.
else was it? It was
He's done a couple.
damn, I barely looked at the picture. All I really saw was the Vecna one.
Vecna. No,
Yeah,
I already,
but,
you sent
he's,
that.
like,
There was like
One
5.
of the biggest like prop guys in Hollywood, so I'm excited for that. That's gonna be sick. Because
Yeah.
you know that the zombies are gonna be dope.
Without a doubt.
Yeah, and I mean, if anyone's played The Last of Us, they've got some like crazy zombies in that. So
Mhm.
Have you
like, the
played both,
clicker-
Aiden?
No, I haven't played the second one, but I
Okay,
saw
second
clips
one's
of the
sweet.
second one. Man, it looks realistic. as
Dude, it
shit.
looks so realistic.
And like even the way that you just run and like shoot the guns, everything looks crazy. So I would love
We're
to play
already
that.
we're already kind of seeing it, but do you think that like series and movies adaptations for video games are the next kind of big wave for
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I could see
As long
that
as they're
happening.
done well. I mean, we really haven't seen any of them done poorly. I just remember, I'll never forget when that Sonic trailer came out for the first time, and everyone just literally like
ripped it.
everyone's jaws dropped. The fucking world was just silent for a minute. Like, what the actual fuck was that? And then some random guy on Twitter, like a YouTuber, made the actual version that they put in the film, and they hired him and like put him on the team.
Yeah.
Which is surprising because they should have just taken it and never paid the guy, because that's just normally how it goes.
Oh, good for them.
Yeah.
I haven't watched either of them, but I heard Jim Carrey was good.
The Super Mario Brothers look sweet, but I'm afraid with Chris Pratt being Mario, like what the fuck is that? But Jack Black being Bowser is pretty dope. So
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I'm dude, that trailer looked.
it looks
amazing.
crazy. It
It
looks
looked
like Wreck-It Ralph. Like that's how that it had those vibes.
Yeah, the style.
Yeah.
Well, I know
Like
that it's the
visual
people that
novel.
it's Illumination, the people that do like Despicable Me and all that stuff. So, and those movies usually look really good,
Yeah.
uh,
No, it
animation
looks
wise.
great.
Lupita Nyong'o, who played the main protagonist in the movie Us, will star in A Quiet Place Day 1, which is a new spin-off film that releases March 8th, 2024. So I don't know.
That's a
That's
good-ass
I didn't even know
option,
that.
man.
I didn't even know that movie existed. I think that's a pretty cool idea.
I thought it was
but
over
I
with.
yeah, I feel like we kind of got day one in both Quiet Place Part 1 and 2 in a way. Maybe that's just from their perspectives. But 2, there's always those time jumps, right? Where it's like
I was
we're only
gonna
in the
say, yeah, you
flashbacks for
don't.
like 10 minutes.
Yeah, that'll actually be cool because you kind of you get to see like when it starts and then like a year or two later. You don't really get to see like the first like say 30 days of that shit going down. So if that's what they do with it, it'll be kind of cool.
Yeah.
I'm excited.
The Russo brothers says that the new Disney live action Hercules film is a modern musical inspired by TikTok.
I don't even know what the fuck that means.
I don't know.
I don't
that
know
means-
either. Yeah, I don't.
Hey,
How's it
so that
inspired by
means-
TikTok?
hey, so that means none of us are gonna watch that.
That sounds like that's
Yeah.
gonna be
They
pretty
better
bad.
not let Russo brothers take over like those kind of Disney characters. Like, why? Why do they need a hand on it?
Just come
Unless
back and
they're
do
looking
Avengers.
for work.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, why would as a director, why would you even want to do something like that?
Honestly, I wouldn't even
Enough
want the
Disney
Russo brothers
bucks.
on
Yeah,
that.
I mean, it's all about the money.
Yeah, but all the other Disney live action movies make like $1 billion. So
Well,
That's
yeah,
probably
but I
why.
mean,
I think if
it's
you
still
don't win
like
$1 billion and you
You
have
th-
a Marvel movie, that's a failure in my opinion.
You throw their name on it, you throw the words TikTok on it.
It's
live
live
the name
action.
TikTok alone just fucking kills
That's
it.
Is Hercules in a fucking renegade in the middle of the fucking
fuck, probably. That's a $2
He'd be shaking
billion
his
movie.
ass probably.
yeah, and then
TikTok
last but not
is.
least, the most exciting news for the whole week, Dodgeball 2 is happening. Apparently.
Dude, I seen that. I didn't know if it was true or not.
I think does it need Ben Stiller's approval? Or is that past that already? I've been seeing it all over Twitter about Dodgeball 2. So
Who's the guy that plays like the scared?
He was in Barbarian.
yeah,
he's, like,
Yeah,
scared
he like was on a
robot,
podcast and mentioned
makes
that
out with,
Dodgeball 2 was in the
Russian-
works.
John Long or something.
Yep.
I just said it
Dude.
the other day. But yeah, he's really funny.
I seen the podcast that he had, like the clip of it on
Mhm.
Instagram, saying that it
Yeah.
might happen. But I think you said Ben Stiller.
Yeah, I know. Like a week ago, I was waiting on his approval, but I believe now it's like they're doing it. So
Yeah.
I think that would
Well,
work. I think that movie would work.
I mean, it could just be another dumbass plot, so
Exactly.
doesn't
Don't fuck it
matter.
up. Just don't.
But
fuck
no,
it up.
I think that yeah, but you can't have like funny jokes like they did back in the day. So I mean, now you say back in the day, it's been like what 10 years,
Yeah.
15.
But dude, they need to get everyone back, like even Jason Bateman and everything.
No, but that's why I'm excited to see Sausage Party 2.
Yep.
What's it
That got
called?
announced.
That'll be goofy.
Yeah, like no, dude. Like I'm surprised at the shit that they're gonna say in that because right before they even show it, people are gonna start canceling Seth Rogen and fucking all those guys.
Mhm.
It's gonna
Yeah, I
be
mean that
so
happened last time.
stupid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Don't let
But,
your kids see this movie. It's fucking rated R. Of course they shouldn't see this movie, you stupid bitch. What was that?
well, it's animated, so it looks like our kids can go.
Yeah. But I'm reading right now that they're trying to they're eyeing to cast Bob Odenkirk in Wonder Man
Really?
Uh-huh.
as a key role. So that'd be dope.
Damn.
Yeah, that'd be kind of
Maybe
cool.
like a
Call
villain,
Saul.
or-
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, something like that. It would be dope.
That'd be
I
sweet.
want to get in a
Yeah,
movie.
he'd be good.
That's the thing. Like every single actor and actress wants to get in the MCU. Like, why not? Like, it's you feel left out at this point,
Yeah.
and they're
I
just.
mean, yeah. Why
never
are the
gonna
small
stop
guys not in
making
a
work.
Marvel movie yet?
Yeah. Let us
I'm
get,
just
like,
saying,
let us
like,
die or let us just be in the background.
give us like enough like money for 3 months to sit in like a fucking cabin or something. You're telling me we couldn't make a fucking good ass plot for any type of movie, but like let alone a Marvel movie. Us,
Of course we could. I don't even need 3 months.
but I'm just saying though, you give us enough time to make a good
Uh,
fucking plot and think about it thoroughly with time to kind of sit on it. There's no reason that we cannot make a fucking good.
That's the thing. There's the problem with those like companies is that there's just so many hands in the pot, so no one can come to agreement.
Yeah.
That's the hardest part.
Yeah. But all right, let's get into our Rings of Power review.
All right, welcome back to Small Guys Podcast. Today we got me, Aiden, Brian, Nick, and a good guest, Charlie Baker.
Hey everyone,
Hey, what's
Let's
going
give it up
on?
for Charlie.
Hey, we appreciate you coming out here.
pleased to be with you
Oh
guys.
yeah. Some say that Charlie is from Middle Earth himself, but I
Yeah.
guess we're here to put that one to the test. So
Hey,
Uh,
before we get going, I do want it on record in case you're not watching this because we are on YouTube. If you want to see us do this, pop over on there. Charlie was showing us his book from the story, and
Yes.
it is ran through This is the guy we needed for this episode.
This
Oh yeah,
this guy,
Oh, look at
this
that.
guy's seen some stuff. This book has seen some
got
stuff.
some
y'all.
years on it.
Time to buy the
Yes.
hardcover.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, that one's
the hardcover
that one's
doesn't
gotten
get
some
read.
action. But yeah, I'm here to share all the nerdy things that I've learned about
Oh, yeah.
Tolkien's universe.
Hell yeah.
But today we're gonna be talking about the newest Amazon Prime show, Rings of Power, the newest installation to the I guess you could say cinematography.
It's more so just
World
expanding
of-
on the universe of
Yeah,
the
of
Tolkien's
Tolkien's.
world.
Yep.
And kind of taking their own takes on it at certain points because again Tolkien gave us this perfect layout for the most epic journey ever. I hope one day to finally get around to reading the books, but from just the movies alone, watching through all the extended cuts, it is the most epic tale. This is the only way to describe it.
Yeah.
And like I said before when we were talking about like this little bit before in one of our older episodes, it really paved the way for every other big battle fantasy type, films like franchise that we've seen in our years so far. We wouldn't have the Marvel Cinematic Universe that we have right now without Lord of the Rings. We wouldn't have Star Wars. We wouldn't have all that other great stuff that we have, Harry Potter. And, it really is like a pillar to the film industry, I guess you could say. It paved its own path, and you got to give it credit where credit's due. So
100%.
but yeah, we can get in. I guess we could just start off saying, just I don't know. I mean, we
Hang
could
on,
have our guests.
should I get a little synopsis going here?
Yeah, you can if you like.
All right. So this is what the synopsis is for this taking place. This is all before Lord of the Rings. Sauron is around, but he's not what he is as we know him. So it's an epic drama set around thousands of years before the events of J.R.R. Tolkien's The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings. Follows an assembled cast of characters both familiar and new as they confront the long-feared reemergence of evil Middle-earth. So this is, again, taking place thousands of years ahead of time. I know myself personally, when the show was announced, I was a little skeptical, only again, because just off the films alone. And, The Lord of the Rings came out, did the most craziest things ever that we have seen on camera. And they went on, it wasn't until Lord of the Rings, Game of Thrones season 7 was that Battle of the Bastards where it finally beat the Battle of Helm's Deep. So for them to make a show to follow up with that, I was skeptical about it. And as we got into it, just from the first episode alone, I was like, all right, I think we might actually have something good here.
Yeah, I mean, when they first announced it, it was the most expensive first television series ever made.
Yep.
And that's why it was like Bezos's baby. He was milking it, he was nurturing it before it was even announced and all that, so that's one thing that I can like definitely say when I originally watched that first episode on release night was that I was kind of upset that I was at home watching it when it looked beautiful enough to be in a movie theater. And I'm sure most people thought that too.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Nick, you had the experience. Tell us all about it.
Nick Palancar was nice enough to take me. Thank you, Nick Pal. But seeing it on the big screen was pretty awesome because it's a really beautiful show, especially the first 2 episodes.
Yep.
I really feel like they wanted to draw you in. So seeing it on the big screen was really, really cool. All the lights and you get to see.
Well, as I watched the second episode and you get to see inside of where the dwarves live, dude,
Yeah.
I was like, I can't imagine seeing that on the big screen because
Yeah,
that would have been so crisp. Like even on my TV, that's from like 2013. It looked phenomenal.
And it wasn't just the sounds, but the noises too, because you can hear you can feel it too.
You can feel
when
the
it goes in
bass.
it, like the doors opening and all that. It was pretty awesome. I wish I could have watched all of it in the theater, but
Yeah.
And it was only the first 2, right? Not the first
yeah, it
3.
was the first 2 on the first night.
Mhm.
So
Well, at least that was at least like a movie release because I mean you were there for almost 2.5 hours.
yeah, honestly, it did kind of feel like it at a certain point.
Yeah.
So
But,
you did get that feeling at least.
yeah, but I don't think I wasn't bored at all. So
Good.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Charlie,
I mean,
what
I
were
was
your
jealous.
thoughts from the first episode?
Yeah, I mean the visuals are amazing. Some of those vistas, like when they're in, was it Valinor, right? And
Mhm.
like you see the
Yep.
trees in the distance, like you see where all those billions of dollars went pretty
Yeah,
quickly.
Right.
It was good. I mean, the one thing that I thought they did very tactfully was, Lord of the Rings is known for its like prologues, like setting up the world and the lore that you're stepping into, and to have to tell this story in this second age or in between. We know a lot about the first age. There's all these things that happen. We know the third age is all the stuff in the movies that we've seen, but this middle part, to get to that, you've got to explain a little bit of that context. And so in that first 10 minutes or so, we open up with some interesting dialogue between Galadriel and her brother, but then they roll through like 2,500 years in like 2 minutes. It was good because, like, obviously, like, super fans would be like, well, that's not exactly, that didn't happen then, but they did it in a way that you could like sink your teeth and you're like, okay, I get the context of who these people are. Something really bad happened, a lot of people died, this lady Galadriel is important to it. If you're brand new to it, you're in it, but there's also a nod to all of the things that happened in the first stage, which is interesting because they don't have the license to all of this content. That's what was also impressive with these showrunners. Amazon only has access to certain parts of the story, as I understand.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
they're having to
they're
having to tiptoe around certain things. Like I just thought
Kind
they
of
did a
does
great
make
job.
sense because they don't go into detail as too much. Like, it's kind of, they're trying to do their own, like, it seems like a fresh installation to already established universe, that we're seeing. And like you said, they're tiptoeing around it. It definitely makes sense now that you say that. What was I going to go off of that? I'm sorry, I'm losing it.
Yeah,
You
no,
can keep going.
I mean, like the example being like, in that opening scene, they're off at the battle, and then you see
Yep.
that one shot. It's like kind of cast in like a red light, and it almost looks like you're looking up from underwater, and there's like an elf speared through, and you see all this devastation.
Yeah.
What they're alluding to is the fall of Beleriand, right? And the one big battle, and this entire half of this continent like is so wrecked by all the war and everything that it sinks under the sea. They're showing you that without saying anything and talking about it because they can't, two, they don't have time. So
Yeah.
I thought it was pretty well done.
Oh yeah. And I do like one thing is when they what is it, like the first or second episode when they fight that snow troll
Yeah.
in the cave, and like
Yeah.
that's the only thing that I don't like about this realistically is that like the battle scenes were great and all that, but they only showed one creature, that's a snow troll. I was hoping for more, which I mean then again, like you said, they do a great job of setting up a great story, like giving all the lore, give you an illustration, all that, only to set up for a greater second season, in my opinion. I think that the second season is going to be insane compared to what it was.
Be crazy, dude.
Yeah,
I'm so
it is gonna be
excited.
good.
And even with just the visual aspects, I mean, I don't know if they're going to go and beat like whatever their budget was on this, which was like does anyone know off the top of their heads how much it was? It wasn't
No.
$1 billion, was it?
I can look it up.
There's $1 billion behind it at some point. I don't know how much was in this first season.
Yeah. Well, all I know is that Netflix offered to do this for $250 million budget,
It says
which
they
I couldn't
spent-
imagine what it would have looked like.
Says they spent nearly 500 million just to make it.
Yeah.
Each
But I mean-
episode,
Yeah.
each episode was about 60 mil.
Damn.
Damn.
How does that compare to like Game of Thrones? How does that stack up?
I think it blows it out of the water.
Yeah,
like,
it definitely blows it
tremendously.
out of the water. It's probably all
Crazy.
8
I
seasons
mean,
put into
what
one.
was Game of Thrones? What was it, season 7 or 8?
Yeah, season 8.
Just, but
Season
yeah.
8 would have been expensive as season.
$15 million for each episode, so they blow it out of the water.
Jeez. Wild.
No, at a certain point though, I feel like as these episodes went on, it almost feel like they splurged all their money at the beginning because we weren't getting as many cool ass shots.
Yeah, that's true.
Granted, we did start getting more action by like, was that episode 5 or 6 where it kind of started picking up?
I
We were
think
seeing
5 was
battle.
like the battle that we
Yeah,
saw
okay.
by the tower. What was that
So-
little town called? I'm not too familiar with it. Just when they're
Osterith is the tower.
Austria.
Yeah.
Osterith.
Yeah.
Non-canonical. It's all kind of made up, but super
Is
sweet.
it? Yeah.
Did it fit at least, or did it feel out of place?
No, I thought it was great. I mean, Tolkien leaves so much open for interpretation
Mhm.
that I think the way they tied all the stuff in with the Southlands was well done. Which, by the
I-
way, how are we doing spoilers here? Are we just
So
all in?
yeah,
Like, if you're listening to
we're
it's
this,
already like
all in.
established now.
Okay,
It's whenever you
cool.
want. You go.
Yeah.
We can already do a spoiler warning right now. I mean, we
Mhm.
try to tell people not to watch our episodes before they watch the film.
Mhm.
So by now, spoiler free or not
Yeah,
spoiler free.
Especially
Spoilers
because
are
the
good to
ending
go.
of this season has been what, 2 weeks now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're good. We got free
We're
reign
given- we're
to
given
just
a
say
lot of
whatever
time.
we want now.
So
Nice.
yeah, you can pick off the end. You can go middle, beginning. Doesn't
Yeah,
matter.
whatever's grinding your gears, whatever you love, let us know.
Yep. Well,
Nice.
I really liked how they showed that these Southlands it turns
Mhm.
into Mordor just
Mhm.
after that
The
once you what
Mount Doom, is that what
yeah
you're talking
Mount Doom
about?
Yeah.
Mount Doom explodes, and I mean I enjoyed how they put like just the little details of that one guy who was like on Arren's side, but he was a townsfolk,
Mhm.
and then he goes and you don't know what happened to the sword that Sauron had.
Mhm.
And then it shows that old guy again just turning it into the keyhole, and then all shit just breaks loose.
Dude, it was so good the way they set it up all along with like the tunnels, and you don't know why they're digging these tunnels.
Yup.
Mhm.
And then I mean, that's the thing is like no one really knows how Mordor became Mordor. And so the showrunners are giving you all of this insight. It's
Mhm.
consistent with what happens before and after, but they're filling in those gaps. And the idea that this was, like some backup plan, like if Morgoth and Sauron are like defeated, there's this backup plan for how the orcs could have somewhere to
Mhm.
live. And that it's been laying dormant all these thousands of years,
Yeah.
and then they execute on that. It's sweet.
It
Mhm.
is. It's awesome.
No,
And
and
then
that was the
ev-
thing too, because you
Go
don't
ahead.
really like. Well, I didn't really realize it just as like a casual viewer. Like these orcs are coming out and they have like protective headgear on. It's because they can't go into the sun. That's
Mhm.
why they're underground. Versus just off Lord of the Rings, we see them
Mhm.
going full power because they have Mordor and they can be out and about and they don't have to worry about the sunlight. And to like put that together, I think by the third episode is when I realized I was like, oh my god, like that's such a good little detail I never really realized. And you can see it throughout where they're just like burned by the sun and they had these injuries. So that was
Mhm.
great layout on their part.
I really like how they showed obviously Galadriel. It was based off around her, and then it showed a great story between Elrond and the one elf.
Celebrimbor, is that who you're talking about?
No, the not the elf, the dwarf.
Oh,
Durin the
Durin.
third.
Durin. Yep. And then I mean that like I just love how it bounced around. Like each episode kind of gave you a piece of each of the storylines, but then it all ties in. Like, just it shows the Durin and Elrond's relationship build over the like first like what 4 or 5 episodes. And then you kind of leave those guys in the dust, but then they come back
Yeah.
when they're they're forging the 3 rings with the God, I'm so bad at memorizing the names of this stuff. The ore.
Oh yeah, Mithril.
Mithril, that's what
Yeah.
it is.
And by the way,
Mithril.
I'm gonna lean like deep into like the Tolkien like rolled R's, so we're gonna get into
Oh,
it.
yeah,
Like
we need to hear it.
Durin and Galadriel.
Yeah.
We're gonna get into it.
Oh yeah.
That's one of the things I loved was they took some liberties with like the origin of Mithril, which is like the most valuable thing in the Third Age, and they're
Yeah.
kind of that whole story about the Balrog and the elf fighting over the tree, the Battle of Hithaglir, they call it.
Mhm.
That's not really in anything. That's not really like a story, but they allude to it, right? So when Elrond is talking to, I think it's Gil-galad, they're in Lorien, and he's talking about, there's this story of how Mithril was formed. What? And Elrond breaks it. Well, that's just a legend. That's not real. Like, or it could just be a legend. It's cool because they give themselves a little latitude to say, like, all right, yeah, this maybe isn't exactly how it happened, but this is the legend that we're hearing. That was cool the way they set that up, and then of course that flows through everything else that happens with the rings. It flows down into all the Third Age stuff with Bilbo and Frodo, and even even the dwarves in Erebor and the Hobbit. It's all connected. So
Yeah.
it's cool to get that backstory. Speaking of backstory, one thing that I thought they set up that I think we'll see in future seasons is what is that relationship between Elrond and Durin based on? Like, how does an elf and a dwarf become such good friends that they would have this incredible rift by not like being friends? You know, like
Yeah.
Durin's, he's like mad.
Yeah.
You can tell he's like torn up that
Yeah.
Elrond hasn't come and visited him, missed the birth of his children, all this stuff.
Yeah, that 20-year speech got me.
Yeah, I mean, it's awesome. I think we get to see what formed that later on. I'm excited
Yeah.
to see like what because it'll probably color that first scene even more once you realize why they're such good friends. I think there's gonna be something interesting there.
Yeah.
100%.
What's gonna suck? Do you think it's gonna be one of them dying and then we get it in a flashback?
Yeah.
In true fashion.
Oh man. He's just holding someone's hand.
Yeah.
One of them was probably gonna be Dodorin.
Oh, stop it. I know it's gonna be him. It has to be him.
Yeah, Elrond's not gonna die.
Oh,
honestly.
that was cool though that Elrond could hang though when they were doing the what's it called? Where they were smashing the boulders.
Oh yeah, yeah. What was that?
That
called?
was that was a great scene. I love that. And like you could tell at a certain point when it broke and they gave him a new one, I almost felt like it was Elrond giving in. Not for say like giving in because he was tired, but he was just like, all right, I did this many. I think I've gained the respect. I could keep going, but I don't want to outdo him in his own home.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Well, at that part too, I mean, if you don't know too much about it, like it doesn't seem like they're as good of friends as they are. You
Right.
don't know that. You're like, oh, like this guy, he's gonna get cast out, and like there you go, like so much for that.
Yep.
And then it ends up completely flipping the script, and you're like, wow, like these guys have history.
Yeah,
That's
that's
what makes it
actually
even
arguing
better.
like old friends, which is like
Yeah.
great. You know, it didn't feel like
Yeah.
fake or anything. You could tell there was the anger there.
Mm-hmm.
And then when he like says the thing, like we at least hear why I'm here, and he's like, of course you want something.
Yeah. But I really like how just even from the start, I mean, not really from the start because it doesn't mention it too much, but they keep hinting Sauron. And then
That's a good R.
they make it thank you. They make it to where you're playing the guessing game from the first episode to the last episode. You're like, who's who? He's Sauron. They even said that what's her name was Sauron. Who was the little girl? Poppy? Not Poppy.
Nori. Nori, the Harfoot.
Nori, yeah, the Harfoot.
That's
And
great.
then people were like making memes of it on Twitter and all this, and I'm like, Jesus, man. But I mean, they couldn't have done it any better, in my opinion. I think that they sell it perfectly. But I do have to mention, like, with that being said, possibly the worst character of this entire show,
Get it.
and that is Theo.
Yeah.
Theo is by far the worst
Yeah.
character of this entire show.
He's like Frodo to me. Annoying.
Yeah.
But Frodo's great. Like Frodo's a good character. Like,
He's
you
not bad.
back him. Theo,
Frodo
like
isn't
you don't
bad,
even know
but
to
I do
root for him. You're like, oh, is he
understand.
evil? He's got this
Yeah.
relic, the key to Mount Doom, I guess you could call it. I don't know if it has a specific name, but and you just think that he's gonna turn into Sauron the entire time, and that he's gonna go and he's gonna turn evil, but it's complete opposite. Like you're just waiting for it, it never happens. And I mean, that's just one thing that it was like kind of like he had a lot of screen time for being obsolete,
Yeah.
I guess you could say. I don't know if you guys feel the same.
I mean, I didn't really like his character that much. Every time he was on screen, and
Yeah, he just really didn't do much. It's not
No.
like I had like a hatred. It was kind of like, this
it was
guy again.
he got in the way a lot.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But you would think that like his actions would have consequences, which they
Mhm.
really didn't. Besides the fact that the other guys stole the sword and blew up Mount Doom.
Well, I would say it's a pretty big consequence. for
Yeah,
him.
but then again, it wasn't really his fault. They were all getting ransacked, and then Galadriel and all the other people, all the other what is their army called? Charlie, do you happen to know that?
The Numenorians.
Yeah, is that it was just the Numenorians?
Yeah, I don't know if
They
like
went
they
in.
have a specific name, but they're
Yeah.
all the soldiers from Numenor.
But yeah, I thought that scene was kind of rushed. I feel like they showed them on boat, or like that they're gonna come, and then out of nowhere they just show up on horseback and like rolling deep. It's like, oh, okay, like everyone could have predicted that.
The geography was interesting there.
Yeah.
I watched it a second time just to see, like, all right, so they're seeing the sunrise, and then they cut back to the Southlands, and it's like and it's the next day. So and they do mention it'll be like a day to the mountains and then another day to cross the mountains. So I kind of lined up, but I mean, that's one of the things in this show that they have to stretch time, both in like in the short term stuff, but even the long term. I mean, this whole age plays out over thousands of years, and they're more condensing it into like hundreds of years. So you'll still see, that like lifespans of these people are not the same as normal people, but they've had to condense some things and maybe stretch some other things out. On the point of Theo, I had the same thought. Like, what is the consequence of this character? I wouldn't be so quick to write his character off because, one, I mean, Galadriel was so annoying for like the first half of this season.
All right, fair.
Like, I'm like, this is not Galadriel. This is not like the wise elf that's thousands and thousands of years old who has all these powers and everything. But they slowly unraveled some of that, like, I guess for her, even though it's her youth, she's still very old at this point, but some of that impetuousness, like she rushes into battle all the time. It seems like she's maybe not thinking everything through. You start to see that, like, maybe with the failure, ultimately, like she couldn't stop what happened in the Southlands. She kind of, it's almost like it breaks her down just a little bit. And you start to see some of that wisdom. She's talking to Theo, right? And that they're the oddest combination of characters to have this deep dialogue. You would never think that those two at the beginning of the season would come together and have this important conversation. She's talking about losing her brother and her husband, which we should come back to. But I think that's actually important. I think it's important that it's the two of them, because I think Theo moves on to become someone as the ancestor of someone. My personal opinion, I think he's the ancestor of the Rohirrim, the people of Rohan. Theoden King. Perhaps there's a name tie-in, Theoden. Maybe Theo's a short for something else. I mean, again, this is many years later, but I think you see the guilt of Theo, even though Galadriel tells him not to carry that. I think that plays out in the development of his character. It's going to be interesting. So that's could be totally wrong, giving him too much credit, but.
No, man, it could be. I mean, they have to. Like I said, his character was obsolete, and he had no, like, what filler did he have rather than his mom was
her name?
Bronwyn.
Bronwyn.
And then she ended up dating that one elf, Arondir.
Yeah.
And like that was it. Like, and then they have Theo. Like, and then that was the other thing. And, it just, I don't know. And it kind of pissed me off watching it. But like you said, I mean, if they definitely like make his character have some reason behind it, whether he's a descendant or someone's an descendant off of him, like later in the I guess you could say the history down the bloodline, like, he has some kind of tie back that would definitely bring his character arc back to life. And I don't know, they could do something better out of it. They should have just made him Sauron.
Sure. But I mean, so what did you guys, there were some like really important reveals, like they kind of couched them up in twists and things, but like, what was y'all's thoughts as just like watchers of this show? Like, did you like what happened with Halbrand? Did you like what happened with the stranger? Like, what are your thoughts on all that, the way they did it?
Like the stranger, I feel like should have been bigger at a certain point. Like, he falls down and they find them, and like the girls find them, and then what's your name gives that cute little monologue of like, I just have a feeling he landed here for a reason. He's a bigger thing. And then he went on and just didn't do as much as I thought. Like, yeah, he was revealing signs that, like, because like the thing is, so he's drawing those symbols in the ground and he keeps muttering those words, which is another question I had for you, Charlie, was like, with reading all these books and having all this knowledge, like, can you like speak the language? Because I remember I watched videos after the second one and people were like, we have people deciphering it and they think it means this and that. but one of the most revealing ones would have been like they translated it and it would have been like something about like heat of hand or something like that, you know, like Sauron symbol we've been seeing throughout. And it was just like, holy fuck, like what does he know?
Yeah. Yeah, again, that's what I think they did so well in this like reveal of who is Sauron, because exactly, I don't know I don't know any of the languages, but I'm really good with subtitles. So
Yeah.
like if you watch it, it's telling you what he's saying. Sometimes it tells you just the words he's saying, and then other times it says in Quenya or in Sindarin, which are the
Right.
Elven languages, what he's saying.
Mhm.
I think from like some other things I was reading up and watching some videos, all of those sayings, it's consistent with who he ends up being. But it also then kind of blurs the lines, like, oh, maybe this guy is Sauron. Like the fact that the heat, like he doesn't know that heat is hot and burns him. Like that's very much like a indicator that this could be Sauron.
Yeah.
But what's also interesting too is like Halbrand in his behavior and in his language, the things he says, they actually wrap in lines and things that it tells you ahead of time, like, oh, this guy's like super Sauron here. So they did a great job of making it unclear, but ultimately, I mean, they're the same, right? So Sauron is what's called a Maiar, right? So they're like one step down from like the gods, and Sauron's a Maiar, and so are the wizards, the Istari. So they're actually on the same level. So like when you see Gandalf later on in the Third Age and Sauron, they're actually kind of Saruman, all those guys, they're all basically of the same like level if you're kind of comparing them. So it would kind of make sense that they would say that this stranger who turns out to be a wizard and Sauron, who's pretending to be Halbrand, are kind of in the same vein. You got the same powers. So.
So
How did you guys
thoughts on all this?
Go ahead.
On what, the reveals?
Yeah.
I was not expecting Hellbrand to be Sauron. I'm gonna be honest.
Really?
Yeah, I think I kind of.
Who'd you think it was gonna be?
I don't know. Honestly,
thought it was
I
gonna
didn't. I didn't think
be-
they would. I didn't think they would reveal him yet. To be
Yeah.
honest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep,
Yeah, I
agreed.
thought they would. I thought Hellbrand. I guess it makes sense, but I guess someone would have helped him forge the rings, and then later on in the season, we would have found out that was Sauron,
Mhm.
not that he forges the ring and like, oh crap, that was Sauron. So like, what do we do now?
Yeah.
We literally helped him.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that one got me by surprise. I did not think the stranger was Sauron for a second. I saw as soon as he landed, the gray beard, the cloak. I was like, that's Gandalf. That's 100%. That's gonna be
That's a
Gandalf.
stranger.
100%. It's gonna be at least a wizard. You don't just.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I knew that
Yeah.
one, but
That's great.
no, I think they did a good job disguising it for the most
Mhm.
part. Obviously, they got me on Hellbrand too.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that they definitely gave it away on that final episode that Halbrand was Sauron. I mean, I know that once they show Galadriel with the scroll, that the one guy got him, that's how you know. And they don't even like mention it when you think that they're gonna go into that. It cuts to like another scene where I think he's looking for Celebrimbor. And he goes and he's like, oh, is Celebrimbor here? Like, okay, like he's definitely not who he was earlier. Like, just the whole tone of his character switches in that final episode, which I personally don't like. But like you said, they definitely give you hints. If you were to rewatch it right now, knowing that Halbrand is Sauron, you can 100% tell from like the second episode. Once he's just in the sea stranded by himself. Like, you know, like how random is that?
Yeah.
Yeah, like that should have almost been like a sure sign.
Yeah, I mean that's what it is. And then I love that one scene when they're going back in their eyes, like you know how they're going like they're showing the evil between both of them. And even Galadriel, and they like zoom in and her eyes are all like I don't know what you would call it, goblin-y. She looks like a damn goblin. And that scene was perfect, especially when they're going back and forth when she had that rope tied around her and she's underwater. You know, he comes to the rescue, and it just that's a sick scene. And it's also crazy how he leaves her in the pond when they're crafting the 3 rings, and she just wakes up and Elrond finds her and then he doesn't even think anything of it until after. Like, I don't know. But I enjoyed that part. It definitely kind of hit me that was him when he beat the shit out of the 4 Numenorians.
Yes.
When he was in Numenor, and he just like defeats them with ease. And I know that she was saying that he was the prince or the king of the Southlands.
Mhm.
So like that kind of was like, oh, okay. And I mean, they don't really go too much into that lore either. Like, oh, why? When he's like, I got this off a dead man. You know, the patch or the signal, the symbol. And I mean, they made it pretty obvious. But then again, they also had Oberyn and I guess you could say Theo at one point, and Nori was another take, and then the strangers. So they had about 4 or 5 different characters that you could choose out of, and you know, personal preference before that final episode. But yeah, I mean, I enjoyed it. I liked how they developed Halbrand's character. I guess another thing that I should ask you guys is, what do you think about the stranger, how he couldn't even communicate, and then that final episode he can speak full English, and he's just complete opposite.
Dude, he's a fucking wizard. Like,
Yeah, I know.
he's a wizard. He just need to get knocked around a little bit.
Yeah, I
started
guess.
working again.
And all the Hardfoots are just bashing this guy. They just want him to die. They want everything negative to happen to him. He makes the branch fall on Nori and her brother, and then they're like, shame. They're shaming him, and then then they go and wow, he just saved the day.
That was actually the first ever witch hunt. A lot of people don't know that.
Yeah, literally. But
it is cool. There's that tension and conflict. You don't know if he's good or bad. They even talk
Yeah.
about it, you know?
Mhm.
It is just funny, like how he can't talk and then he speaks at the end. You notice his accent changes.
Yep.
So like when he first talks, he's not speaking in English, but then when he learns some English or, you know, whatever language it is, the common tongue, he speaks with an Irish accent, kind of
Yeah.
like the Harfoots are all Irish
Yeah.
for some reason. But then at the end, it goes into more of like a posh British type of thing, more like an elf. It seems intentional.
I mean, like with my background knowledge, is the stranger 100% going to be Gandalf?
I
What do
think-
you,
That
what
would
do
be
you
a
guys
great. That
know
would be a
that we
great
don't know?
introduction.
I think-
though. Like,
I think
how
it's
perfect would
likely-
that be?
I think it's likely because you have to remember Gandalf has a very kind fondness of hobbits,
Yeah,
Mhm.
exactly. From the very first movie.
and it seems to me it's very clear that he gets them from somewhere, and it probably
this is
makes
it?
sense that it would be his first encounter in the world is with
Yeah.
Harfoots, which are obviously descendants or ancestors to hobbits. So I think
Yeah.
that just makes sense.
So
Plus,
I
he
mean,
fell this guy with a gray cloak on. I mean,
Yeah, it's like, come on.
There's
then,
so
like-
much debate about this online. You guys got
Yeah,
like,
no,
it's crazy. Everyone's so like they definitely want you to think it's Gandalf,
100%.
which is one of the reasons why I don't think it is.
Yeah.
Like
Is
even
this a
some of,
baby Yoda situation?
yeah, it's a
Yeah.
baby
Yeah, I
Yoda
think it's
situation,
Fuck,
100%.
All right.
That's the best comparison. He says things like he talks about like going on an adventure is something that's to be shared, right? Well, Gandalf and Bilbo all those years later have that conversation around going on an adventure. And then they have the line about following your nose, which is something when they're in Moria, Gandalf and Frodo, when he doesn't know which way to go, he
Mhm.
says, oh, follow your nose.
I know
And he
that's
says, so they're alluding to all of that, but I honestly don't think it is. I don't think it's Gandalf.
Yeah.
Who do you think
My
it is?
opinion, he is one of the blue wizards.
Okay.
The blue wizards. So there's also consistency with like the timelines, right?
Mhm.
So in all the stories, the wizards don't really show up until the Third Age. So way after this. But later on in Tolkien's writings, he wrote a book called Peoples of Middle-earth. And it's just, he didn't write it. It was collected by his son and everybody else. And it's just a bunch of essays. And there's like a 1 to 2 page section on the blue wizards where he changes the story. They didn't come later on with the other 3 wizards. They actually came in the year 1600 of the Second Age, which is exactly when we
Where
are.
we're at.
So I think
Oh,
he's
shit.
one of the blue wizards. There's where he's headed, right? He's headed to Rune, which is the land in the east where the stars are strange.
Mhm.
And that's actually what the blue wizards did. The blue wizards came in, they went off into the east, and they were really there to thwart the efforts of Sauron as he was kind of coalescing
Mhm.
support amongst all the different races of men and elves and dwarves that all live out there. So he's a wizard. I don't think he's Gandalf,
Damn. Okay.
which is good though, because like
Yeah.
you don't want to like Ian McKellen was like amazing. Like
Mhm.
that's like
Mhm.
one of the most incredible characters ever that he plays.
Yeah.
His version of Gandalf's indelible. You can't really do like a middle-aged Gandalf.
No.
Like
yeah,
and tie it in. And then they got to fill in this hole of like, well, then Gandalf leaves, but then he comes back later. We'll see.
He's
There's
just
a lot of
another
debate
wizard.
about it.
Yeah, I like that analogy though, that he's like Baby Yoda, because I remember when they first announced that Mandalorian trailer and we saw Grogu, and everyone's like, no way, we're getting a prequel of like everything that we've ever seen
Yeah.
before. We're getting Yoda, like a baby version, seeing all that history and how he became, one of the most powerful Jedi there is, and like
Yeah.
how wise and everything that was. And then it was just a kick in the face. Like, no way. But then everyone was pissed, and then they're like, wow, this is the best thing that Star Wars ever did. So I mean, I do see where you're coming from, saying that it's not Gandalf, because
Mhm.
I feel like it'd be too easy. Like that's another way.
Oh, yeah,
Like everyone
definitely.
expects it to be Gandalf, and then they probably got some people coming in too that don't know too much about the lore and the history, and they're like, Gandalf, and they watch it. So I mean, they
You
definitely
see,
did a
and
good
again, I
job
think
doing
that's
it.
why it's perfect though for like situation like this. Like it is very nice that we have Charlie here, because to us, like I figured he was like a wizard. I didn't think he was Sauron. Now, as far as Gandalf goes, I didn't think that. But now, like after like we're talking about it, like yeah, I could be swayed at that. But if it wasn't for someone like Charlie that goes in and knows about it, then we're not even gonna know about the fucking Blue Wizards.
Yeah, 100%.
And I think that's like a great aspect to have.
But then I feel like the one part that kind of sold me was when Nori was like, "You're good," and then he flips it, and he wants to be bad, or he wants to be. They keep calling him Sauron, but he's obviously, he doesn't know him. He's kind of like a baby at that point.
Yeah.
Can't speak any English. He's just speaking his native tongue, whichever language that is. And then she just gives him that little spiel saying that he's good, and then he turns around, he's got the blue light, and it's just everything in the staff. It's like, yeah.
Damn, and he had the blue light. That'd be a sign right there.
There you go. That's another one. I didn't
All
actually
right,
think about
Charlie,
that.
all
I didn't
right.
even think
It
about
was
that. That's
blue.
good.
It wasn't white. It was
It
like
was.
a hint. It was a tint just between.
Yeah.
Which they know what they're doing. So, I'm
Yeah,
excited. I hope it doesn't take 3 years for us to see season 2. I'm
like-
excited.
I don't think it's gonna be as long. I think this one took as long as it did because of COVID.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. But I do
'Cause then
like
they-
how realistically, man, it doesn't look like shitty CGI, man. We've been seeing
No.
some shit CGI
Yes.
this year, and
And
this
it's
looked good.
Fucking
man.
crazy because this is an Amazon TV shoot.
Yeah,
Granted,
that's why
it has
it's
that backing of that budget that we just talked about at the
Mhm.
beginning.
Yeah,
But
I mean,
for a goddamn TV show, and we're getting this quality, and now we're going to the big screen and getting this trash ass CGI, like
yeah, man.
step your game up.
It's hard
This
to keep
show's
up.
blowing you out of the water.
Yep.
They've blown you out before in the movies. Just like keep up.
I would be I'm really excited to see where they go with this though. Like I don't know if you guys have read anything about it, but how many seasons do they expect to make out of this?
I think it's
Oh,
5, right?
They're going for
5?
5. Yeah.
Five's
Alright.
a lot, so
I was gonna
That's
say
pretty good.
4,
I
but
wonder what
that's
they're
House of the
gonna-
Dragons.
Because they're on track right now, so they did the 3 rings, so then they still need to do
Yep.
the 7 for the doors and 9 for
Yep.
the men, and
9
then
for
what
the
do you do
men.
after that? The battle.
I guess just
Yeah.
figure out
The
how
One
Mordor
Ring.
becomes fucking Mordor.
Well, I mean, he's got to forge the 1 ring. But is that going to be its own season? I mean,
mhm.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely got to probably end with the last alliance. It's called the
Yeah,
last
that's
alliance of men and
right.
elves, right? So that's when Isildur and Elendil fight, and you see at the beginning of the Lord of the Rings. So they cut the ring off of
Yeah.
Sauron's hand. Like it's kind of cool that I think this show will end. And it may or may not be the last Lord of the Rings thing that happens for a long time. It will end where the very first movie began. And there's
Yeah,
that's
and that's
some
sort
cool,
of
like,
yeah.
that's really cool.
parallels there.
And again, at the same time, though, I'm not saying last Lord of the Rings things like for a while, but like if that did happen and they built up to that and they're like, all right, see you guys in like 7 years, I'd be all right with that.
Yeah.
As long as they come back. But no, they could take their time after that. If they do this right and they build us up to that
Mhm.
first movie right there, I'll go
Be
fucking
perfect.
crazy.
Yeah,
That
it'd just
would
be a perfect sign off.
It would.
But then again, like you said, you don't know what's gonna what's after this, after the 5 seasons. Are we
Mhm.
getting another movie? Are we getting anything? I mean, I'm not I haven't read any of the books, so I'm not sure what kind of stories are left. But like you said, I mean, there's like you said, notes or like essays that his sons and stuff put together. Like, but I mean, we are technically kind of seeing that right now. If that's the case, like they might be tying that all in.
Mhm.
Because but yeah, I mean, I'd be excited to see like, you know, a new adaptation, not of the entire story, but you know, something spin-off. But I like how they keep it to themselves and they don't expand in different areas where they shouldn't. Like, you know, they tell the story as it is and they do a damn good job of it. So
Yeah,
And again,
it-
a big factor is that jumping around portion. I was a fan of that,
yeah.
where you're getting these character stories, and then boom, we're gonna zip over here. We're gonna see what these people are doing, and
This-
then the great job of just all coming together.
Yeah,
That's
they
the
do.
best thing about Lord of the Rings is that they show them travel from the
Yeah,
map.
The
that was
maps are the
fucking
coolest.
great.
It's the
Thank you
best.
for saying that, because I was gonna
'Cause you
throw
know
that
where
in
the
my
hell you're at.
review if we didn't fucking say it right now.
Yeah.
But yes, that was the biggest blessing, because I've looked at the map before, you know, everyone has, but to
Mhm.
finally like get these little locations, and then we're getting the dotted lines of which way they're traveling. We're getting the actual like not corners, but you know, we're getting like if like what's actually north, south, or east. You know, like we're going everywhere. And I was a big fan that they included that, because it was just like again, and on top of that, it was a great way to like do a time jump because you're seeing how far the fuck's going across the map.
Oh yeah.
yeah.
Oh, that was great.
Speaking of the map, how many of you guys picked up on the Sauron symbol being the actual map of Mordor and the mountains and all that stuff?
No
Remember that?
fucking way.
Yeah, not a chance. I love how like every other person I talk to, like, yeah, I got it. Like, no, you didn't.
No,
Oh my
I
God,
fucking- I
that was
did not
sweet.
get that.
What do you
That
mean
was
by
sweet.
it was the mark is the entire map?
Yeah, his mark. So they
Fuck.
showed it to you vertically the entire time, and
And
then
you
when she
spin it.
takes it out, they turn it, and you see, oh God, it's like it's where Minas Tirith will be. It's the mountains,
Oh,
and
shit.
and then Orodruin, which will become Mountain
Yeah.
Doom. Like
Yeah.
so, it wasn't a symbol. It was like a direction. It was a map of like where you should go. Orcs. It was cool, but like everyone was like, yeah, I saw that. I was like, no, you didn't.
I definitely did. see
Yeah, I
that.
did not see that.
That's awesome. I mean, that's like the perfect little hidden Easter egg.
Mhm.
Same as what was another part that I was gonna get talking about. How do we feel about I mean, obviously Isildur. God, I can't
It's
stop
just
rolling
kidding.
my
was
eyes.
good.
He's
See?
doing good.
It was good.
He's going. I'm speaking the native tongue now. I'm becoming Tolkien's haunting me. But we see him. He's obviously not dead. Like, oh, we're gonna see
Yeah,
him
obviously.
come back in season 2. Like, you know, and then we still have his sister too, who plays a big part. What's her name? Erin.
Yeah,
Uh,
Aarion. She's
Arian.
she's gonna be really interesting. So she is she's kind of a non-canonical made-up character. There's so much that's gonna happen in Numenor, knowing where this story goes, the politics that are gonna happen, like that's gonna be like the Game of Thrones
Yeah.
style stuff that's gonna
Mhm.
happen. Like the way that all this political infighting will take over in Numenor, you guys are gonna love it. And Aarion, introducing her as a character, it kind of shows their hand of how they're gonna set this. So basically what's gonna happen, without giving it all away, there's gonna be conflict between the faithful, of which Elendil and forget the Queen Regent's name at the moment.
Muriel, is it something like
Muriel,
that?
yeah. So Muriel and Elendil are the faithful, and then you've got Pharazôn, who's the guy with the beard. They're going to be the Kingsmen, they're called. So it's the Kingsmen versus the faithful. So there's just going to be this huge political conflict that's going to take place, and it's seeing that Elendil's children are going to fall on either sides of this political line. Aarion, I think, is basically going to become part of the Kingsmen, and then her father's going to be on the other side. There's going to be all this fighting. It's going to be epic.
Yeah, it's definitely you could tell that it was kind of, it had Game of Thrones hints to it. And I mean, or even when she what's her name, Arian, she was painting, she's doing, whatever class that she's in, she's painting pictures of she's kind of illustrating the king on his deathbed. And he goes, I know what you do at night. And he's just like going off. And then she's like, and then they kind of give you like a tease to it, but they don't really go off of it. Then the scene cuts, and then you're like, what the hell? Like, especially on the final episode, you're like, well, what's gonna happen? I mean, it's good that you have some insight on it, because like anyone else is kind of left in the dark.
Yeah, I thought that was maybe one of the misses, especially the final episode, was they really leave you hanging with her, like in what's the Palantir. Most folks wouldn't pick up that's the Palantir. I mean, that's it. It's going to be 2 years before we find out what what happens there.
And then especially with Muriel, she's blind now.
Mhm.
So like that was crazy, especially like that was like a huge, like, I mean, you obviously see how she's trying to adapt, but I mean, who knows what we're going to see in season 2, especially she's probably going to give it up. Like, I mean, she probably doesn't want to rule anymore. And then they also tease the flood of Numenor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, I mean, knowing that Mount Doom erupted and like all that water's coming in, I thought that we would get that scene, especially if you watch any of the trailers after each episode. They showed that one of Galadriel at the top, and she's just getting water on her. And I know they showed that as like a dream of hers when she was sleeping or whatever, a nightmare.
Yeah.
But then they show a different cut of it, like a whole different run. She's got a different outfit on. So I was hoping to see that in the final episode, but then they completely just cut it and put it in. But maybe we'll see that in season 2.
Season 2 is going to start, and it's just the water flooding in.
Yeah, well, a lot of people were pissed off that the entire first season kind of spent like 8 episodes in Numenor. They're like, all right, like, come on, like, just leave Numenor. Which, I mean, I don't understand why people would really hate that.
Yeah.
Oh no, it's like the centerpiece of everything that's going to happen. I think it.
And that's the thing, we're going to see the destruction of Numenor on the choices that the queen had, how she didn't want to side with Galadriel until the end and all that stuff. So, I mean, it's definitely, it sets up for a great story, you could say. I'm excited to see all that shit happen.
One thing we haven't talked about too much, I don't know how much time we have, but
we have unlimited time. How much time you got?
The elves, like, we haven't really dug into the elves too much, right? We get to see like a different set of elves in this. Arondir is one example, right? So like Arondir is like this, he's not like this like glorious, like fancy elf. He's like basically like a foot soldier. Like he's like,
He's a grunt.
Yeah. By the way, like the stunts were sweet. Like,
yeah.
And it wasn't like the campy, like Legolas, like jumping off of floating rocks and like shield surfing down stairs. It was like actual cool, like parkour, capoeira kind of stuff when he's jumping around. I thought Arondir was a really cool character. He almost like humanizes the elf people a little bit, humanizing in the sense of you can start to empathize with them more, because I mean, they live forever, right? So like they're never in a hurry to get anywhere, right? There's not too much urgency there. So they're just kind of floating through and pious, and they don't really care. But Arondir, like, he's out there with the people. He's out there with all the men of the Southland. He's fallen in love, he's raising a kid, it's cool. I don't know. I thought he was a really cool character. And I love contrasting him with some of the other male elves like Celebrimbor, Gil-galad, and those guys.
Definitely. I think that was an aspect that I think we weren't going to get, because off rip, I didn't expect him to be an elf. I don't know how. I just fucking didn't think about it at all. And then like I slowly realized, I was like, oh, fuck. And I think that was the thing too, because I didn't think about it like that. You've never seen an elf act that way. And like from like even the get-go, when that cow shows up and he's like, all right, like I'm gonna head out and go towards that, you guys stay here. And they're like, no, we're gonna come with. And he's like, all right. And they all went on their merry little way. But I think at the same time though, it was nice seeing that, because again, we know a lot about elves, but like when you put like Legolas up there, you're like, oh, it's gonna be the best elf forever. Like we're never gonna see anything that sick again. And then you grow to love this motherfucker throughout this whole show, and you're like, wow, like that was great. And that was another thing of like, again, I didn't know how a show could compete with these three epic movies that we've seen. And well, I keep saying 3 and I keep ignoring The Hobbit because The Hobbit was fucking phenomenal. But the 3 Lord of the Rings are the ones where I've spent most of my time. The Hobbit, I think I've seen each one maybe one time at this point. And the third one was very recently, within the past couple of weeks.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be cool to see how they take his character and Bronwyn and Theo and all of them, and how they tie all of that in, because there's all these other peoples that are going to be coming out of this second age, and I think they've created these characters because they need a way to personify all of that. But now, one particular thing that I'm really interested to see how they tie it in related to the elves is when Galadriel's talking with Theo, she mentions obviously her brother who died, and we knew that from the beginning. But you notice she mentions her husband as well. Like a lot of people didn't know. Everybody thought like her and Halbrand were gonna have like some hot thing, but she's actually married. Like in the story, like she's married like for forever and all these things. And so it was really cool how they brought in like, yeah, I lost my husband too. She didn't say he died, which is interesting. But where has he been all this time? Like, so maybe her husband's out there. Maybe he comes back. Maybe this is a new elf character that's going to come back. That's going to be interesting to see, because in the stories, this doesn't happen. Like, his name's Celeborn. Celeborn and Galadriel are married for all time, so it'll be interesting to see how that comes back, and you see a little bit more of Galadriel's character come out, not just the young warrior general leading the armies of the north, or later on we see her as the Lady of Lorien, but also maybe falling in love.
Yes. Then like the greatest Galadriel scene where she's fighting all the rookie soldiers in Numenor. They're all she's 1v8ing them, and she's just shitting on all of them. And they're just sitting behind, not stabbing her, not trying to go in for the kill.
That was a fun scene. Those scenes are campy, but like they're good, and like the music.
No, they are
sweet.
good, and then it shows you how she's a badass. Yeah,
the music was sweet throughout the whole fucking show.
But even
who's the composer for this? I forget his name, because I looked it up at one point. I was like, this guy's dropping bangers left and right.
It's Bear McCreary.
Okay.
Bear McCreary, I think is what it is.
Yeah, because I will say the Strangers theme, that one was my favorite. Whenever the fuck his little song started going, I was like, yes.
Yeah, but I mean, I really like I love how they put a lot of emphasis on the Harfoots, obviously because of strangers with them, but it shows you, like, I mean, you can't have a Lord of the Rings story without hobbits, so
right.
It's great that they put them in there. I really like Sadok's character. Sadok Burrows before he passes, when what are those girls called?
That were those witches or whatever that show up.
Something with a D.
Sorcerers or something. I don't know.
Yeah, but whatever, they go and they're attacking him, you think that they're attacking him, but they're praising him, like they're they
get
saying that they serve him. Yeah, so I mean, that was good, but Sadok's character, like, I mean, he just had a bunch of good dialogue, man. He's just he's just the Hobbit. Like, he's that, like, in this story alone. But it sucked when he died, but I like how they showed it, and I liked his character. He was one of my favorites until he obviously passed, even though he came off as an asshole and all that.
He got a little bit of his own medicine there at the end.
He definitely did. He was super harsh, and then out of nowhere, he's like, "All right, fine." But
the Harfoot stuff was cool.
It was, and I love how they're just masters of disguise, man. Like, they just show it so well in this one, especially when they're called dwellers.
Oh, okay.
Dwellers show up. They're in the camera pan, and then they all just pop out. It's so good.
Nice.
But,
that's it. the Harfoots are a nice way of tying in, we need wizards and hobbits if we're going to do a Lord of the Rings show, right? We don't technically, we don't know anything about the hobbits before the Third Age from the stories, but the Harfoots, so there's like 3 different like groups of halflings that, and one of them, the Harfoots, are the ones that are the precursors of the hobbits in the stories. So bringing them like into this story was super cool. One thing I was reading this in one of the newsletters about this. They tied in the culture of the Harfoots in like this kind of nomadic tribe with the wagons and the wheels. They very intentionally did all of the wheels in the design of later on Hobbiton's round doors and windows.
Really?
Think back to Hobbiton, how they have round doors with a knob in the middle, and they have the windows and the half windows, and they have spokes. They very specifically made this entire like culture to be around the wheel, right? And family and all, and how that then you can imagine how this whole culture grows over thousands of years, and they settle down and they start to dig, hobbit holes, and but keeping that round shape and design, I thought was cool. I mean, it's so smart on the part of the showrunners, because like none of that's like in any Tolkien stuff. They just made all that up. But like that's what's cool, is like they're adding something that's adds a ton of value to the overall story, I think. So
the visual callbacks, you could call them. And that is sick. I mean, I didn't even notice that. And you see that's like another Easter egg that they have in there. And the showrunners obviously didn't have to put that in, but then it's also great to know that like stuff like that is inside this series, because they obviously know what the hell they're doing. Like it's not some idiots that are like, oh, I only saw the Fellowship of the Rings and I made this, like I have my hand in this pot. Like, and that's a lot of shit that we see nowadays, like a lot of half-assing. So
it's just nice to see that people actually fucking care. It's not people just doing a money grab. They're not like, hey, we haven't done anything Lord of the Rings related lately. We could totally get the nerds to come stream that, but like, no, they sat down and took their fucking time with this. It felt, and granted, like some people are like, oh, it was like a slow season, but again, like we're building to a lot. And again, now I'm hyped thinking, oh, maybe we do get to the first movie. Even if that doesn't happen, I know I don't think I'm going to be disappointed throughout however many seasons they decide to fucking get this. Like, I don't imagine we're going to get a rushed ass season like we did for Game of Thrones at the end.
Yeah.
No.
And
no,
like,
I think they're definitely going to take their time.
Alone.
I was reading some stuff about this, that they had this entire show mapped out. They have it mapped out already. So it's not like they have to write each season, I mean, obviously they got to do the script and all that, but they know exactly where they're going with it, and there's no like, there's going to be no like halts in production, I guess you could say. It took them an entire year to film, obviously because of COVID, and it's mostly shot in New Zealand, which is insane because it looks beautiful.
It's awesome.
Yeah, it's sick to know that.
I heard they're in the future, though, they're only going to be filming in England. They're going to have like a second unit that'll do some shots in New Zealand, but they're going to do it all in the UK for cost purposes, I think.
Makes sense.
That'll be interesting. Like, I hope we don't see like a drop off in terms of the vistas and the and all that, or it becomes maybe over CGI'd, like they're trying to tie it all in. That'd be bad. Hope they don't do that.
That's why, I mean, as long as they have a plan and they have it plotted out and they know that it needs 5 seasons, perfect. I mean, nothing should ever go, in my opinion, above like 5. Like that's like the cutoff. Like we saw, I mean, 6 with Game of Thrones, you could say. Like 7 and 8 were just diabolical. They're just a disgrace, dude.
We're not gonna start talking trash.
But
7 was on the
that was
decline,
okay. That was
but
the
7
start of the
was
demise.
still decent.
but
I
mean,
I agree. I don't want to see them do that to.
But that's the
show.
thing. There's no such thing as a bad Lord of the Rings project. None of the Hobbits were bad. None of the Lord of the Rings movies were bad, in my opinion.
I didn't like the second 2 Hobbits.
All right,
the second one was Desolation of Smaug.
That's pretty sweet, man.
That was
dragon.
The best.
It's the only dragon in Middle Earth.
Yeah, that was sick.
Wasn't it Benedict Cumberbatch?
Yeah, it was Benedict Cumberbatch. and Smeagol was Andy Serkis.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, I hope they have a huge cast list. And like it's only the first season. Like they have so much story to build off of all these other characters that we've seen like come and go. I mean, we haven't really lost anyone. I don't think we lost anyone to be exact in this first season as a main
No.
character, like
Yeah, no
death
one has
wise.
a main character.
Yeah.
And just Sadek.
Yes. Oh yeah, Sadek.
Well, Sadek.
That was about it. But
And
yeah.
their one buddy, the Numenor kid.
Yeah, the Numenor
Their
kid
buddy,
that
you're like
died in the
first moment you
fire.
mean like, oh, that guy's dead.
Yeah.
He's like in
Just let up.
the tavern with like his like fiance. It's like, oh, we'll be back in no time.
Yeah.
Dad.
Yeah.
No, he's under the wagon wheel, he's dead. But his buddy's right by him and he's somehow alive. So I don't know. I thought that scene was great when Mount Doom like starts to erupt and explodes, and those like asteroids and those everything's that debris just coming down and just wiping people out. Like I'm
Yeah.
like, all right, this is sweet. Like we needed some action. We needed
That was a point
some-
where I actually like sat up from bed and was like,
Yeah.
"Hey!"
And then the fact that Galandriel, that shot of her just getting swept
Yeah.
in by
Yeah.
like
Was anybody else
mushroom cloud.
yelling at her to get out of the way?
No,
She
she
was
wasn't even-
standing there.
yeah, she didn't even care.
And
And that's
then-
why you're like, oh,
and then Muriel's the one that gets blinded.
yeah. But the one thing I hate is that we're watching weekly and we see that it ends with that cut of Galandriel just getting swallowed by smoke and fire. And then you're like, oh shit. And then 5 seconds later, the trailer for the next episode comes on and she's wiping the soot off her face. It's like, oh, okay. So great. Thanks for the spoiler. But one thing I do not like, and I don't know where these people were getting this picture from, but it was Sauron, like how he was up in everything, like, you know, in his whole costume and all that. And it had Galandriel next to him. Like there was like a reflection scene. I don't know if it was in there.
Oh,
And
yeah,
I must
yeah.
have missed it.
Mhm.
But they were like, it was like the picture on Amazon for the show. Like that final episode.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
It
It
was.
was like a thumbnail. And I was
Mhm.
like, what the hell? Like they didn't show that scene anywhere. Like that would have been badass.
It is in there. It's in it's when he reveals when Halbrand reveals himself as Sauron and he
Yeah.
goes in her mind, right? So the first one's her talking to her brother,
Mhm.
and then the next one is them on the raft.
Yeah.
And when he's trying to convince her to join him, she
They
turns
look
around and
down.
they look in the water, and that's where she sees.
That's where it is.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
that one.
Oh shit. So yeah, that's a good callback. I need to rewatch this. You know, there's been a lot of
Already?
stuff coming out. Dude, when this was out, like there was 4 things that were out at the exact same time. We
Yes.
had this dropping each week. We had
Andor.
dropping, She-Hulk if you watch that, and
Yep.
we had Game of Thrones or
Yeah.
House of the Dragon,
Yeah.
which is
Plus-
absolutely
Plus, we
insane.
squeezed Dahmer in there at one point.
Yeah, Dahmer. Then there was The Watcher was coming
Yeah,
out too.
yeah.
There was a lot of shit coming
A lot
out,
of
and
shit.
it was like overwhelming at one point where I had to take a break. And I
Which is
definitely
why I was
behind.
kind of glad that we pushed recording this episode because I feel like I wouldn't have been able to enjoy it like
Yeah.
that. Like, granted, I don't know if binging it the way that I did was the right way to do it,
Yeah.
but at the same time, I was glad that I was able to take the time, you know, and actually care
Mhm.
about it because I knew with House of the Dragons being out that would be the one everyone would talk about at work. The only way Rings of Power is getting brought up is if someone randomly comes in like, "You start the Rings of Power show yet?" Like, "Oh, well, actually, yeah." And then you have like a little conversation versus that Monday morning, everyone's throwing just like, "What the fuck happened last night on House of Dragons?"
Yeah. Well, that's like we were at a party, a Halloween party over the weekend, and that one guy that we met was talking about. He brought it up. He's like, "Any of you guys watch Rings of Power?" We're like, hell yeah.
Yeah.
Then we were just sitting there talking about it for like
Mhm.
35 minutes,
Yep.
and it's just funny how that works. But I mean, all in all, I enjoyed this. We can kind of get into scores unless anyone wants to bring anything else up.
Yeah.
You know, I'm excited for what they can do with this story. You know, they have 5 seasons that they're already basically confirmed. Knowing that they have Amazon's big bank behind them, like they don't, there's no money issues and they can show everything that they need to. Not even that that's a problem, but just to continue this look of this series and, you know, make it look like the big screen. You know, I really hope that they do maybe in the future have like, I don't know, like some way that you can go to the theaters, like, you know, 5 years from now, imagine that, like just the shit that they do and you could see it on the big screen. That would be hype. But I enjoyed it. I mean, like I said, a lot of people like that aren't too much into it will be like, wow, that was boring. It was all story building.
Mhm.
But that's the best part of it. That's all
Right.
Lord of the Rings is. I mean,
Mhm.
yeah, you get these epic battles, and we got like a little minor battle in this, which was still great. But I feel like the first 2 episodes kind of had a lot of action, especially when Galadriel's in the mountain and the snow troll comes in, and she
Yeah.
just kills it with ease. Like she just
Mhm.
takes it out by herself, and it's like, holy shit, like this is great. And then you also see that one scene that you were talking about, that like minute long scene where it's kind of underwater. I don't know what you said it was kind of the fall of. It had a name.
Yeah, it's the fall of Beleriand, which
Yeah.
is like the land that goes underwater.
Yeah, and
It's
they
one
showed
of the
that.
lands.
They showed the Pegasus in there. They show people getting stabbed. It's like, holy shit, man, this looks insane. And then I feel like it kind of fell off after that. Like, I mean, it kind of teased you, and you're like, oh, you're not getting all that good stuff. Like, especially
Yeah.
when they're going sea hopping.
Well,
Like when
because
they're going.
doesn't 2 end with him jumping in the hole and you're just like, fuck you?
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
3's on the build.
Yeah, yeah. And like I really wanted to see like some issues to happen on the seas. When they show the map and they show the sea serpent and all that other stuff in the on the map illustrated that there's troubles in the water. We didn't
You
get
get
to
the
see.
you get the one sea serpent, right, that breaks up their raft.
Right.
Yeah,
Kills all the
you're
other people,
right.
and that leaves
Yeah.
Halbrand and
Which is
Galadriel.
also
Yeah.
cool though, because then like again we see it that early, and then if they want to do something like that in later seasons, which I think they will, because
Oh,
again
I
there
hope
is
so.
so many mythical creatures for them to like
Mhm.
get in on, that they could just show us. And that would be the thing too, like if they just randomly in like season 2 later on down the road they're in the water and a giant fucking sea serpent shows up, like, well, we could have told you that
Yeah.
because we saw it in the second episode.
But no, I mean, I hope that they do bring some kind of mythic creature kind of type into that. But then again, now that it's Sauron's face, everyone knows who he is Halbrand. And
Maybe.
yeah, maybe. I mean, he's
Maybe.
gone. He could be something else. I don't know.
They could.
I'm not,
Yeah,
I don't know if he,
I bet Sauron's got some more surprises. He's a shapeshifter, right? He's got
Yeah.
the power to change his form. So old Charlie Vickers, or I think's the actor's name, might not have long on his Sauron run.
He got a bag. He's all right.
Yeah. I mean, that would be great. How sweet would it be to see him like obviously have a new face almost every season? That would be dope. So I'm excited to see
because
that.
then again, it would keep us wondering who the fuck it is.
Well, yeah, I mean, I enjoyed it from start to finish. I mean, like I said, it's gonna make a great second season, and that's what I'm most excited for. The lore is just too good though, and I'm glad that you're on here kind of giving us more insight on it, because
Yeah, dude, this was a great help.
we enjoy these movies and we like them for what they are, but we need the insight. We need that that Tolkien in us.
Hey, everybody needs a little Tolkien.
Yeah, but I'll
it's
go 0 out of 100. Me personally, for enjoyment aspects, I believe it was the best TV show visually that I've ever seen. Story was great. Can't go wrong with Lord of the Rings, anything. And I'm excited for what they have to show in the years to come. And I feel confident giving this about a 94 out of 100.
Damn,
So
all right.
I liked it, man.
All right.
Nice.
I enjoyed it. But
All right, which
someone
one of
else
our
can feel
special
free to
guests
go.
want to go first?
Yeah, sure. So if you had asked me like in the second or third episode, I would probably have been like a little more reticent to give it a really good score.
Yeah.
I didn't like what was happening with Galadriel. I wasn't quite sure how these timelines are going to line up, but the way that they brought it back and it was cohesive in and of itself and it tied to the other part, I was really, really impressed. The one thing that I didn't care for, and I know they've got a long way to go, I didn't care for a lot of what happened in Numenor with building those characters. Give you an example, like in the town square, like the one guy, who's like
Malthner.
yeah, the one guy is like getting everybody riled up and he's like, the sea is always right and all this stuff. That's terrible. Okay. Like the sea,
It's just filler.
the problem is you don't have Tolkien. He didn't write any of this stuff, so you don't have like his awesome lines.
Mhm.
But that factored in a little bit in the Numenor character development. I don't love the way they've done it. I'm super excited about Farazan, but that's the only negative in my mind was Numenor. I think they'll fix it up, but I'm gonna give it a 90 out of 100. If
All
they
right.
fix up Numenor, I'm gonna go higher because I loved it. I thought it was awesome.
Well, I hope they really don't. I don't think they plan on showing more Numenor realistically.
Mhm.
Like we might see the demise of it, and then maybe the destruction of it, and then it's
I'm
kind of
afraid
it.
that it's going to be like a core centerpiece of this, like the
Yeah.
third and fourth season.
Yeah.
And then this was like their setup. And I'm like, oh God, you got to fix some of that stuff. But
But yeah, I mean, I just go off of that. I like how you mentioned was the guy with the beard when he's
Yeah.
like trash talking Galadriel,
mhm.
and he like it does not. It sounds like literally like slang that he's saying.
Mhm.
It sounds like the way we would
oh yeah,
talk.
he's like,
and
the
it's, like,
elves are
it
taking
completely
our
breaks character.
jobs. You know,
Yeah,
it's like,
they
what?
don't talk like
What?
that. They're like, yeah, hell yeah. Like, no, it
He's-
doesn't go like
He's
that.
hate speeching.
Yeah, he
They
is.
saw that scene from the end of The Boys. They're like, maybe we can like throw some of that in here. You want to go, Nick?
Yeah. So I liked it. The big thing for me is, especially going and watching the first two episodes. Obviously, Peter Jackson directed Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit, so I was really worried that it wouldn't have the same feel as the movies, because he's kind of what made the movies like really, really good. But I think they did a pretty good job recreating that for the most part, especially in how they tell the story. The way they jump between the scenes. They don't really. I didn't feel like I missed anything. Or you were on a character so long that you either A, felt like, okay, you've been here long enough, or B, by the time you get back to a different character, you don't remember what happened.
Mhm.
So that was good. So I liked that a lot. It really made me happy to see that they were able, that you can still make Lord of the Rings content and it doesn't have to be Peter Jackson involved.
Right.
The other thing I liked mostly was that you get to see on screen more of Middle Earth that you haven't seen before.
Mhm.
And obviously in really beautiful aspects because they spent a ton of money on it. You get to see the west side of Middle Earth, which you really only go as far west as Hobbiton, I believe, in Lord of the Rings and even in The Hobbit.
Mhm.
So you get to see, I believe, is it the Grey Havens? Is that what it is?
Mhm, yep.
And then you get to see Khazad-dûm as an actual dwarf city and not just a ruin as the Mine of
I like
Moria.
that.
That's sweet.
That
So
is really sweet. It's
That
that
was
was
one of the best
probably
scenes.
one of my favorite things is like when he goes up to that gate. I was like, because that's literally my home screen on my computer is the gates of Moria.
Nice.
So so to see that actually, it was really cool. And then Valinor, I always wondered why did Frodo leave Middle Earth? He goes to Valinor, the Undying Lands. Like Middle Earth's a pretty beautiful place, so where'd he go? And then you see Valinor, you're like, all right, yeah, I mean, it kind of
It
makes
makes
sense.
sense.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's pretty cool.
So you pretty much just we're expanding the universe. We're seeing more of it that we haven't seen before in Numenor, Valinor, all the above. And for me, it's really, really cool as a fan to see them build on it, see more of the universe that he has written, because it's massive. And we didn't. I mean, Lord of the Rings touches on a lot, but not even close to all of it.
Right.
Score wise, other than Theo, I didn't really have any complaints. I'll do a 95. I'll one up you, Aiden.
Oh yeah.
All right.
There we go.
All right.
Screw you, Theo.
I'm gonna finish this one off for us. It's weird not having Andrew do it for us, but someone's got to do it. Again, voicing my concern from the beginning was the idea of, yes, we got the most epic trilogy ever, Lord of the Rings, and then followed up, we get The Hobbit, fucking phenomenal. And then they're like, all right, we're gonna go do a prequel now, and it's a TV show, and it's through Amazon. And you're like biting your nails, like, oh my
Yeah.
god, what the fuck are they doing to this? And no one really had any idea. And to finally get it, and yeah, it's a lot of buildup, but again, you got to remember, we're watching extended cuts of these movies that are upwards of 4.5 hours long. This is a TV show where they can actually take the fucking time to get us to where we want to be. Like, yeah, this isn't fucking House of the Dragons. I think that's what a lot of people are getting confused. Is like they're coming into this show and expecting it to like be this ultra high of like just epicness going on. And it's like, no, you're gonna see amazing shit, but you're not gonna get like the bread and butter like right away. Like you're gonna have to go through this whole process. And again, like saying go through the whole process makes it sound like it drags on. It doesn't. They did a great job of bouncing around in this show. And like Siri said, like you don't really forget. You actually kind of wonder, like, hey, I wonder if we're gonna see this character again. And then like it's like the show can hear you, and boom, you're watching these characters on screen again. And for a show to do that, fucking phenomenal. The building off of all of Middle Earth, like we talked about, them showing us the map and kind of giving us an idea of which way they're going, and not only that, but like how long it's gonna take for them. Like that was great. Probably I can't say best show because honestly at this point Severance this year has taken that for me, but this show is a close second for me. And I gotta come in at like I think like a 94 where Aiden was at is like perfect for this show. Fuck Theo, I am with that. There are some little things they can get rid of, but
and they can start with getting rid of Theo.
Yeah, and again, maybe they'll make him Sauron next. We'll see.
Yeah, maybe,
and then it'll be useful. But fuck, no. But like Charlie said, I hope because again, they wouldn't just give this character that sucks, and especially keep him alive if he sucked. They got to know that he's not a fan favorite. So I imagine he's around for a reason.
Yeah. We had the sword.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, another thing that I wanted to just mention before we, wrap this up, I was kind of on the fence whether like, oh, are we glad that this is a TV show? Like when they first announced it, like, oh no, like Lord of the Rings, Hobbit, this entire world deserves to be on the big screen. But I believe that now that we like talked about it, and I'm kind of changing my mind, thinking that these new like television adaptations of these franchises is probably the best thing that Lord of the Rings could have ever gotten.
Well, I was gonna say, and it's again though, it's if they take their time like this.
Yeah, but I mean,
you can't compare something like a Marvel show where like, oh, this would be better dragged out as a show. Fuck you, you just want money. Lord of the Rings, they're like, all right, it's time to give the fans something, and we're gonna do this right.
Yeah, but I mean,
and that's why I didn't feel bad after finishing it, where I'm like, fuck, like this was a better show than a movie for sure.
Yeah. But then they have like so much to work with too. Like you can base an episode around a certain group of characters. You can tell more story, even with those extended cuts being 4.5 hours long. Like this is how many episodes was it? 8, I believe.
Yeah, and it's clocking in at like 9.5.
8 hours.
10.
Yeah, 9 hours.
Each episode was over like a fucking hour.
Yeah, and that's why they're like it's the best thing that could have ever happened to them, honestly. And I'm sure that they're gonna take advantage of that. And I mean, they already have. They're showing us these. They spent so much time in Numenor because one, it was beautiful, and they spent so much time on it. But I mean, then they have the story to base it around. So why not? And just like the Southlands, all that good stuff. Like, I'm excited. I really think that it's going to be good. And like I said, I mean, maybe Charlie and some other like huge fans might know what's going to happen next, but I don't think anyone really does.
That's true. Yeah, they can take it in a lot of different directions because it's so wide open in the Second Age. That's what I'm so excited to see is how they flesh it out and how they connect it in. They proved this season that they know what they're doing, and yeah, I'm pumped. Yeah. You just mentioned there like the time. Think about like the first Lord of the Rings, the extended cuts. They're like 4 hours, right? Yeah. So you get 12 hours across that. We just got basically all 3 of those movies in one season, like right there, like a little shaved off a little bit, but and we get to do that 4 more times.
Yeah,
like that's sweet.
And that's why, dude. Like it opens a new world for them as storytellers and all that. And I mean, imagine if Tolkien, he's not rolling in his grave anymore. He's happy, man. They're gonna do a good job. And I know that Peter Jackson is in talks, like if they ever need help, like he's willing to help them out, which is great to know. But I mean, they seem like they got it down.
I don't think he's gonna direct it again.
No, he's not gonna direct it, but I mean,
ever seen the before and after picture of him before he started and after he
Took 50 years off his life.
Jeez.
Yeah. But all in all, I mean, we appreciate you guys coming out to talk about this.
Yeah, thank you, boys.
I mean,
I got one more.
Go ahead.
Before we
What
wrap.
you got?
What do you
I
got?
got one more important question for you. This is something Aiden and I's cousin brought up to me the other day. Who wins in a fight? Mandolph or Gandalorian? You've got Mando with wizard powers.
Okay,
You've got Gandalf with Mandalorian weapons. Who wins?
I'm taking Gandalor. No, I'm taking Mando with wizard powers all day.
I'm taking Gandalf with Mandalorian weapons.
Yeah, 100%. And over Mandalorian weapons is
Dude, are you kidding me?
OP.
Gandalf with a freaking lightsaber? Come
Yeah.
on.
He does have
It is
the dark saber. So yeah, it's game over. And it's got
Totally.
powers to it too. So he can do magic.
mean,
he's
I'm-
basically a Jedi at that point.
I mean, Mando would be sweet with like wizard powers, but Gandalf killed a whole like Balrog with just a sword.
Yeah, fair.
So
You shall not pass. And then all the little things fly out and hit the Balrog. That'd be sweet. Okay.
Who'd you have that conversation with?
Steven.
That makes sense.
There's a few beverages involved.
And a little
Got in a heated debate.
pipe weed in the Gandalf pipe and that.
Ah, yes. Oh, Toby. The finest weed in the South, Father. Oh,
Yeah,
God.
man. But yeah, we appreciate you guys coming out, man.
Yes,
You know, we
thank
had to
you
get you
guys.
on the Rings of Power episode.
Appreciate it, boys.
You know,
It was
we're
fun.
Thanks for
excited
having us.
for what
Yeah.
this series has to offer us in these next couple years. Hopefully, a couple years. I mean, it seems like we're gonna get it every 2 years, but exciting stuff, man. We got a lot of good stuff on the horizon. So
Definitely.
you know, we're all excited for it and we can't wait. But yeah,
Yeah.
thank you, Charlie. Thank you, Nick.
Yeah,
Sure thing.
appreciate it,
you guys
guys. Means a lot.
and showing your interest in this. We appreciate it. Maybe we'll catch you
Absolutely.
on season 2.
All right.
Yeah. We'll all be
Announcement.
back for season 2.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, season 2 watch party at Charlie's house.
Oh yeah.
There we go. There we go. Dig it.
Hey,
All right, boys.
everyone have a
We
good night.
appreciate it.
Thanks, fellas.
Peace out.
All
Oh
right,
yeah,
see
no
ya.
problem. See you guys later.